All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Pei in Maseches Psachim. So we left off at the bottom. We were discussing 50-50 in terms of half the people were Tameh, half the people were Tahor. We had there was a Rav and two Lashonos of Rav Kahana, two versions of what Rav Kahana said when he held that that Mechza is not Karov. So we left off by Gufa, 3 lines in the bottom on Ayin Tesam and Beis. So here's what we mentioned before. Haresha you so Mechza Tahari Mechza Tamei. So one of the brises, so because remember we brought 3 supporting brises and had to answer according to the others how they understood that brise. So if you have half Yisrael is Tar and half Yisrael is Tamei. Now remember, if you have a majority of Yisrael is Tamei, everyone brings a Betuma. If you have, if it's a majority is Tahor, then those people are Tamei. We say, sorry, tough luck, you can't bring it now on Pesach Rishon. Go ahead in a month and bring it on Pesach Sheni. They're current Pesach. So Haresha Yisrael Mechza Tar Mechza Tamei 50-50. And that price is Halois and last one, Halois and last one. Each one, this is around those who do it B'tahara, they do B'tahara. And those who do B'tuma, they can do it B'tuma, they do B'tuma together. Hayu Tameim Oitfina Tahar. If you have more people who are Tamei than the Tahar, Filu Echad. Now, actually, Yigal touched upon this yesterday. We're actually going to discuss a little bit. So it was a good point he was making. So Filu Echad, even for one person, if there's one more, right? There's 1,000,001 versus 1,000,000, right? Afilu echad, one person more was tamei. Afilu echad yasu betuma. Everyone should do betuma. She ain't coming to see b'chaluk. They should do a betuma. Even if the harin do betuma, right? They don't have to be makbid to do it betahara. They should do a betuma. In other words, they don't have to go ahead and seek and make sure that everyone is tahar, and because this way everyone does it together. Everyone does it unified. Right, and Rabbi Masya Aimer Ein Hayachin Machrias at Sibor Latuma says no, one person is not considered to be a majority. Shnamar, as the pasuk says, top of the page. Right, so you can't go ahead and offer it the Pesach be'echad b'sharecha. So he darshans it a little differently, right? He learns over there, the word be'echad, right? As Rashi points out, b'shvil yachid loytis b'chenim, because of one person. Because of one person, if you have 1,000,001 versus 1,000,000, because of one person, you don't go ahead and make the korban betuma. And Rabbi Shimon Aimer, afilu shevet echad tamei v'shar kol shvatim tahari. Even if you have one shevet, an entire shevet tamei, and the other 11 shvatim are tahor, haloisin liasim, haloisin. Once again, that's considered to be like 50-50. Each one does their own. Those one shevet, we don't say, hey, you're only minority, you're 1/12. Wait till Pesach Sheni. They can do it themselves. My time, the Rabbi Shimon was called Rabbi Shimon. Ksav shevet echad ikri kal. One shevet is called the kal. And Rabbi Yehuda says no. Afilu shevet echad tamei v'shar kol shvatim tahor. Even if you have one shevet, right, is tamei, and the other shvatim are all tahor. Yasu betuma. They should all do it betuma. She'ein korban tzibur chaluk, because as we saw before, that we don't go ahead and divide the tzibur, and therefore we almost make it like it's 50-50, right? And therefore, since we don't make it chaluk, then everyone does it together betuma. And Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason? First of all, you hold shevet echad is called the kahal, v'avilu palga, and therefore, since that's the kahal, so basically you have one kahal that's tamei, one kahal that's tahor, even though it's really 11-1, but it's that they're called the kahal. Then korban tzibur chaluk. And therefore, you also don't do korban tzibur, which is chaluk of the kulu betuma. Everyone does everything betuma. Fine. Itmar. Hayu Yisrael mechza tahari mechza tamei. You have 50-50, 50 tar, 50 tamei. Amarav b'tamin echad behen b'sheretz. Here comes the says Yigal, what we saw yesterday. I have an idea. Go ahead and be matami. One of them betuma sheretz. Right. We'll soon explain why. And therefore, you have a majority of being tamei, and everyone does a betuma, right? Very easy. Why don't you do it? These people do it betuma, these people do it. Rav said earlier that each one does their own. So our answer is now we're talking about a case where you're right, where the tamei people were actually one more. right? So therefore there are one more. So we can't do the 50-50, that each one does their own. And also we must hold that for one person, one extra, 1,000,001 versus 1,000,000 is not considered to be a majority. Therefore you have to have one of the million, basically now will be 999,000. He'll switch over to the other side. And now you'll have a majority because actually that will be 1,000,002, which is 3 more than the 999,999. So that's the kubatuma. Say that's the case, right? Everyone will be a rov tame, and everyone should do a batuma. So why do you say over there? So your answer. So all right, so I sort of skipped a step. So it says, well, if it's only one, if there's one extra, so why do you need to jump over? Just ready to do a batuma. You already have a majority. So you must hold that you can't one, and therefore you need one to jump over from the 1,000,000 now to the other side. Now there's 1,000,002 versus now one less than 1,000,000, and therefore you have a real rove, not just one person. It has to be at least more than one. Why can't you just go ahead and say the people do batuma, people do batara, do batara? If you have, according to the opinion who holds, right, that when it's 50-50, right, then they don't all do a batuma. Right? In other words, you have to hold both. You don't hold that they all should do it together, and you also hold you don't have a small minority, right, or a small majority, a simple majority. Rather, you need a real majority, at least 2 people. And also, we don't want to go ahead and do it and do the tzibur chaluk. And therefore, in order to go ahead and get the majority, you're matame one of them by betuma tuma sheretz. Ula Amar, Ula has a different suggestion. I have an idea, right? Go ahead, find someone who's tahor, right? Let's say they're even, right? So why do you have to go have you matami someone? Just send someone away, right? Send someone far away, have him head down to Beersheba, whatever it is. He's considered to be derech hachoika. Therefore, the people who are present have now a majority of 2. So that was Ula. Where says I v'yatenu b'sheretz. So why'd you go have matami b'sheretz? So he says, okay, because he holds that tumas sheretz we have a machlok, as we saw earlier. We're actually going to see also later on today that when it comes to a person's matami tumas sheretz, maybe that is okay to have the offer the korban pesach on his behalf, right? We're only talking about a person who's matami tumas mace, right? Also tumas zav, other types of tuma. But certainly when it comes to tumas sheretz, that's not considered to be an avat tuma if you touch a dead sheretz, and therefore you can still go ahead and be yaitse the mitzvah of korban pesach. Okay, go ahead and touch a corpse, a dead body. So well, here's the issue, because it's other karbanos. Now, when you come to matami tumas mace, it's not just a one-day ordeal, right? You have to go ahead and wait 7 days. So if you go ahead and wait 7 days, all of a sudden what's going to happen? You're going to miss out on the korban chagiga, right? Korban chagiga is supposed to be brought over Pesach, and you're going to be tummy for the 7 days. So hashtanami madchilu atam and pischo. Well, if you're suggesting by sending him away, right? So now if he's going away, so he's going to miss the korban Pesach. So Efshar David B'Sheni, okay, he's not missing it because he can always do Pesach Sheni. This person went far away. I b'meis nami. Well, even in the case of tumas mace, right? Efshar David B'Shvi Dahavi L'Shmini Shelo. Why can't you go ahead and bring your chagi? You're so worried about being matame him tumas mace. So even, and you're saying, well, if he's matame tumas mace, he's going to miss his chagiga. Well, not really, because if day 1 is Erev Pesach, that means day 7 is day, right? That means day 7 of his tuma is day 6 at Pesach, and therefore day 7 is really the 8th day, and therefore he can bring his chagiga then. So my answer is kulu tashlumin l'rishanino. Really, all the days. The reason why you have a whole week is those days are tashlumin for the chagiga, which is really supposed to be brought in the first day. But since you didn't bring in the first day, then you could bring the next 7 days as tashlumin. The chazi b'rishon, chazi b'kulu. If you go ahead and you're fit to go ahead and bring it on the first day, so then the rest of the days you're permissible to bring because those are tashlumin. However, if you were not fit to go ahead and bring on day 1, i.e., as you're suggesting, to have him be matame tumas mace on Erev Pesach, then he's not fit for day 1. If he's not fit for day 1, he doesn't get all tashlumin, and therefore he's going to go ahead and miss out on his korban chagiga. So Amalu Rav Nachman Zilu Ramilu Ula Man says the akar sichim mashkei v'roit, right? Go find somebody. You know what? It says, you know, here's my suggestion. You know, you go ahead and find somebody who's going to go ahead and say and willing to go ahead and leave and be far away. In other words, the reason why I told him to be matam to masheretz is because it's not so easy to say, hey, do me a favor, go and spend your Pesach in Beersheba alone. Itamar, hayu Reuben Zavin. Now, if there was a majority of Zavin, right? We're talking about different types of tumah. Till now, we're talking about tumas mace. Let's say there was a majority. It was tumas were matami tumas. They were tumas ziva, umiyatan tumah mace, and the minority was matami tumas mace. So Amarav says Rav in that case. So let's say you have, right, let's say 100 people, right? So you had a majority, 51, or let's say 60, right? 60 were Zav and 40 were Matami Tumas Mace. So Amarav Eisen, Tumay Mace, in Eisen, Labarisha, Labasheni. Those people are Matami Tumas Mace. They actually can't bring on the first and second, the first or the second Pesach. Why is that? Rishon Delavdi Dahavi Miyuta, Umiyuta, all right, so he is, all right, Umiyuta Lavdi Barishon. And the first they can't go ahead and bring. Why? Because they're only a minority. They're only 40 out of 100. And we know that if you're a minority and you're tummy, you can't go ahead and bring it. You're supposed to wait till Pesach Sheni. Anami lo avdi. And also the second Pesach Sheni they can't bring. Why? When you have the tzibur doing it on the rishon, then you do sheni. However, but over here, when you don't have the tzibur doing it, because they were metame tumas zav, and they weren't fit to go ahead and bring it on the first one, so therefore there is no second one, and therefore they lose out. And Amalu Shmuel says, Zilu Amrilei Laba, go ahead and tell Rav, who's also referred to as Abba, the Yosu B'nei Yisrael Pesach b'Moado, right? The Torah says B'nei Yisrael b'Moado, Samai Avetulei, right? So over there, it seems to be talking about a case of where everyone was tamei. How could you say that they're not going to go ahead and bring it, right? That they don't bring the first, they don't bring the second. Samalahu. So he answered to them, says Zilu Amrilei, go back and tell Shmuel, Ki Havi Kulu Zav in my Avetulei. Okay, everyone is a Zav. What are you going to do? Right? They can't bring it on the first one, and the Tumah Ziva doesn't go to the second one, right? So Ella came to Efshar lo Efshar, Hakanami lo Efshar, right? So too, just like over there, it's not Efshar. So to over here, lo Efshar. So yeah, you're right. Not all cases is it possible to be the current Pesach. Right? So Enakanami, it's not a kasha from the pasuk. So Itamar, Hayu Reuben Tamei Mesa. Umiyata Zavin. Let's say the opposite. Let's say 60 people were Tamei Mace and 40 people were Metame Tumas Zav. Rav Huna Amar Ein Tashlumin LePesach Haba Betuma. Says Rav Huna, right? There is no Tashlumin, right? For the Pesach was brought Betuma. So since there was a special heter to go ahead and bring it this year, because there were 60 people Metame Tumas Mace, which is a majority. So therefore, Pesach Sheni is off the table, right? Because it was brought Betuma. And since it was brought Betuma, Pesach Sheni is off the table. And therefore, those people couldn't bring the first one because they were Matame Tumas Zav. There's no opportunity to go ahead and bring the second one. Ravad Barabba Amar Yesh Tashlum Pesach Haba B'Sheni. No, those people can, who are Matame Tumas Zav, they could go ahead and bring it. So
what about the people who are B'derech Rechoka, though, that aren't Tameim? What is it? What about the people who are B'derech Rechoka, that they're far away, that they're not Tameim? Are they just like left out of the equation? You say if they're not Tamei, they're just far away. Right.
So if it was a year that it was brought to Betuma, right, then it sounds like from this, it could be, depending on the explanation of the Machlokes, if it was a year where they brought it to Betuma, then Einachanami, there wouldn't be a Pesach Sheni. Right. So let's see. So name of let's say this is the Machlokes. The one who holds that there is no tashlumin for a Pesach who's ba betuma holds why? Tuma duchyu b'tzibur, right? It was dechuya, right? It was basically it was overridden, right? And as we say, it was like the tuma that was overridden that year, and therefore when it's overridden, we make the people like who brought it, right, to be tahor, and therefore, when they're tahor, right, they don't have to go ahead and they're able to go ahead and those people tamei mace, it's like they're tahor, right? It's like they're tahor, and therefore everyone should bring it. But people who are zav, right, they cannot go ahead and bring it. And the one who says no, there is tuma for next. They could bring next Pesach. Tuma hutra b'tzibur. They held that tuma is hutra b'tzibur. In other words, basically there is no right. Everyone is considered like a normal year, and therefore there is no tuma doesn't apply. Excuse me. And therefore, just like when people who are not tahor, they can't bring it now, they can bring it the next one. So too, they can bring the next one. So therefore, to answer, maybe people who are derech chayka would also be go ahead and bring, right? So Amalei, lo. So he said no. The kuli alma tuma duchu b'tzibur. Really, everyone holds that tuma duchu b'tzibur. Over here at V'apligi, here's the machlekes. Mar saber, one held that tahara madchia tuma loy madchia. One held that only that a carbon that was brought to tahara can go ahead. And therefore it's pushed off to Pesach Sheni. And Tuma Lomadka, however, but something which is done with Tuma cannot go ahead and cause Pesach Sheni. Umar Saber, and the other opinion held that Afilu Tuma Nami Matka, even something was brought with Tuma, can go ahead and basically allow people who are not fit the first time to go ahead and bring. And therefore it's not necessarily machlokas to say that it was that was hutra b'tzibur. It was not hutra b'tzibur. Rather, it was dechuya. And the only question is, if it was dechuya, if it was overridden that year, what happens to Pesach Sheni? One holds that since it was people right were able to bring it then, therefore you can't bring it later. Now it holds no, even though if people were able to bring it then because of tumas meis, but if you're a tumas zav, then you would be able to go ahead and bring it on Pesach Sheni. And Itamar, one last case. Hayu shlishtan zavim. If there was a third of them who were zavim, so we're going to divide in three, right? 33 zavim, shlishtan tahirin, and 33 were tahor, u'shlishtan tamei mason, and 33 people were tamei mason, right? So each one is even. Amar Rabbi Mani bar Patish, Eisan tamei mason, ein Eisan lois rishon lois hasheni. Those people are tamei mason. They miss out on one Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni. Why is that? Rishon lo yavdi. On the first one, they can't do it. Why? Because you add those who are Batami Tuma Zav and those who are Tahor, and there's 66% people who are not Tamei Meis, and therefore there is no heter to do it Barishon. And I have a Tamei Meis and Muta, and therefore the Tamei Meis and Muta lo yavdi Barishon. Therefore, since they're minority, they're only 33, they're only a third, therefore they can't bring up Batuma. Sheni also loyavdi, they can't do it. Why? It's Sarfin Zavi and Tamei Mason, the loyav de Berisha, right? We can go ahead and we basically say that 2/3 of the people did not do it on Pesach Rishon, right? The third are Tamei Mason, and the third are Zavin, and Havilu Ruba, and therefore those people are considered to be a rov. For Ruba loy malchil Pesach Sheni, and you can't have a majority of people go to Pesach Sheni. Fine. Now you Mishnah. Mishnah says, and those who I guess have a Mishnah. Pull out this the next chalak, right? Which is this is number 10, number 11, right? Number 11, I think out of 72. Right, we're making our way through. So Mishnah says, "HaPesach shenizrak damo v'achar kach noida shutami." So a korban Pesach that they threw its blood, and afterwards they were informed that he was tummy, or that not that the korban was tummy. All right, hatzitz meratza. The tzitz, the fact that it sits is basically it's mutter. The tzitz is meratza, and it makes it okay because the tzitz helps when it comes to the tuma of the korban. However, nitma guf, if the person he himself became tummy and it's his meratza, then the tzitz is not meratza for the tuma of the person. We say, when it comes to a nazir who's performing his tahara at the end of his nazirah, so he can't become tameh, and he brings his karbanos to the end, right, when he remains tar the entire time, and there's a pesach person who brings a korban pesach, hatzitz meratz al tumas hadam v'enas meratz al tumas saguf. The tzitz is only meratze for the tuma of the korban itself, of the blood or the basar, but is not meratze for the tumas saguf. And speaking of tumas saguf, nitma tumas hatahom hatzitz meratze. If one becomes tameh from tumas hatahim is basically considered to be unknown tuma, right? It's unknown tuma. In other words, the source is not known. A person, Rashi gives an example, right? He was in a house, and underneath the house, right, there was a kever there, right? Underneath the stone that he was sitting with, and basically they informed him that's considered to be tumas home, something which is unknown. That's the case. So a case of something which is unknown, i.e., like a suffix, right? Then it sits as maratza for, right? That was the Mishnah. So let's see the Gemara. Now the Gemara makes a deal. So Tamad Nizra Gviacharkach. It sounds like over here they threw the blood and then they told him, hey, by the way, right? The blood was tamei that sits works then, right? But however, they tell him, hey, by the way, right? You just checked the blood, but it came in contact with something tamei, and then he throws it wouldn't work. What does the tzitz work for? It works for the blood, the flesh, and the chaylev for the fats. Shanitma, that became tummy. Bain b'shagig, bain b'mezid, bain b'oinus, bain b'ratzon, bain b'yachid, bain b'tzibur. The tzitz is maratza for any case. So it says even b'mezid, right? In other words, b'mezid, i.e., I knew about the tuma and then I threw it, right? So understand, you just said only if you throw it, then afterwards you were informed that it was tummy. It works. Seems to be even if I know it, then I throw it. Right? I know it's tummy, then I'm zorik it. It works. The tzitz is maratza. Some of you know. No. Tumaso, and it's like this. Tumaso, maybe it comes when, how did it become tummy, right? There's two things here. There's how it became tummy and when you throw it. So tumaso, over there means how did it become tummy, whether it being b'sheging, being b'mezid, or whether you knew about it or you didn't know about it. Hurtza. Zrikaso, however, if the zrika once you knew about it, then b'shegeg hurtza b'mezid lo hurtza. Only if you know about it. If you didn't know about it, then it works. But if you didn't know, if you knew about it, then it wouldn't work. And Rabbi Shilo Amar, no, zrikaso with the throwing it bein b'shegeg bein b'mezid. Right? Even if you knew about it, you didn't know about it, doesn't make a difference. It's maratza, right? Hurtza. Tumaso, however, the only question is that tzitz works. Depending on how it became tummy. Bishogeg, if it became tummy accidentally, came in contact accidentally with someone who was tummy, then hurtza. The mazid, however, if someone intentionally touched it, and then even though maybe the blood was offered without knowing about it, that wouldn't work. Lo hurtza. So elo hadut tani beim bishogeg beim mazid. That which is beim bishogeg beim mazid means like this. Hakikamar nitma bishogeg. If it became tummy bishogeg, right? And on that, it became tummy b'shogeg accidentally, and then he knew about it, right? The zarko ben b'shogeg ben meisi, whether knowingly or unknowingly, hurtza. Then it works. Our Mishnah says v'haditani dam shenizrach v'charkach noida. Well, why did our Mishnah dafka say a case when the blood was thrown and only afterwards he knew? According to what you're saying, let's say it accidentally became tummy, right? And then knowingly he threw it. Right, that tzitz should be maratza. So why did it only list the case of he was informed afterwards? So Tama, it sounds like Tama the Nizrach. It sounds like only because he threw it and afterwards he was informed. If but he was informed and then he threw it low, it wouldn't work. Where it says no, even if he knew about it and afterwards he threw it, the tzitz still be maratza. So why did Badafka say this case? And the reason why it said the case of it was thrown and only afterwards he was informed, because it wanted to teach the case of the Seifa, where it says Nitama Haguf, if the person he himself became Tameh, Eina Tzitz Maratza, then the Tzitz Maratza, the Afilu Nizach V'Kakanoida, even if he threw it and then only afterwards he was aware, the Kohen is aware that the Baal became Tameh, then it would not work. So therefore, the Reisha also used the case of Nizach V'Chaknoida, basically to teach you the extreme of the Seifa. Even the case of the Seifa, if the Baal became Tameh, it never works because the tzitz doesn't help the Baal. The tzitz only helps. The tzitz only helps the tzitz only helps the tuma of the blood or the chalev of the basar. Fine. Two dots. So then the last part of the Mishnah says if it's nitma tumas hatum, then it's tzitz maratze. Now, boy Rami Barchama kohen hamaratze v'knovaseya. Huchaloi tumas hatahum olo. So we say that the tzitz, right? Basically, the tzitz was maratze, helps out this tumas hatum, right? This unknown source of tuma, right? Unknown source of tuma, the tzitz works for. Now the person is vadai tamei tumas meis. If it's unknown, right, the kever underneath the house, as Rashi brings down. So what about the Kohen, the one who actually offers it? Let's say he was Matami from Tumas Atom. Does that cover him too? Or are we just talking about the Baal? So we say Tumas Atom, that's only with the owners, however, Bitcoin like Gemiri, but that when it comes to the Kohen doesn't apply. Or maybe we're talking about the entire offering itself. So it doesn't make a difference whether it's the Kohen who has the Tumas Atom or the owners. So Amar Rabba, so says Rabba, Tashma, come listen. The Tani, we learned, it says Rabbi Chia, Loi Amru Tumas Hatum Ella Meis Bilvat. The Tumas Hatum only applies with Tumas Meis, right? That type of Tumah. Now, Meis, what are we excluding when we say it's only the Tumas Meis, right? The Sheretz maybe means an unknown source of Tumas Sheretz. And now, if we're talking about, so we're excluding Tumas Sheretz. Now, who are we referring to, right? Ubamai, Yaskina. No, we're talking about E-name of Bailim if we're talking about the owners. So I understand Ubaman, Ibn Nazir, if we're talking about a Nazir, because remember, we're talking about both a Nazir and a person who brings the Pesach. So Mima Hanibe, right? Does it make a difference, right? Kiyamos Meis Olav Amarachmana, right? When we talk about a Nazir, right, he's only commanded not to become Tami Tumas Meis. We don't care about Tumas Sheretz. Therefore, so when the Torah says Tumas Tahom is okay when it comes to a Sheretz, to exclude a Sheretz, well, it could be talking about a Nazir, because a Nazir, he's allowed to become a Tami Tumas Sheretz, right? Elo b'yoyse Pesach. Maybe we're talking for a person who does a Korban Pesach. So, okay, maybe according to those who mentioned this machlokas earlier, that it's forbidden to go ahead and offer or be yotzei your Korban Pesach if you're matami tumas sheretz. Elaman diomar sheichten v'zarkin al tumas sheretz. But according to the opinion who holds that if you're matami tumas sheretz, it's okay. You can go ahead and shech the korban and do the zrikas adam. Sahashta tuma yadua hutralo. Tumas hatum lo kol shekain. Now, if we know a person is vadai tame tumas sheretz, you can go ahead and offer the Korban Pesach. Certainly, a person is only safek tumas sheretz, right? You can offer it, right? So obviously, this exclusion of Tumas Hatom when it comes to a sheretz, right? It can't be talking about the Baal. So who are we talking about? Elav the Kohen. So it must be talking about the Kohen. Ushmamina, right? Huchalova Tumas Hatom. And we learned from it here that the Tumas Hatom, right, works by the Kohen. In other words, if the Kohen was accidentally, right, he was unknown, suffix of Tumas Meis, right? So therefore, the Tumas Tom not only applies to the Baal, but applies to the Kohen. And so, however, Rav Yosef, no, that's not the case. We're only talking about the owners. So the owners, I thought we said we were talking excluding Tumas Sheretz. Who cares, right? The rest is not. Tumas Hatom de Ziva. We're talking about excluding Tumas Hatom of Ziva. In other words, unknown Ziva. What does it mean, unknown Ziva? A person was a Zav, and his seventh day was Erev Pesach. So he doesn't know, right, whether he's going to go ahead and have another Ziva on that afternoon. If it goes at the Ziva in the afternoon, it all goes back that he was Matamid all the time. So therefore, this is how Rashi explains it, right? So therefore, it's considered to be it's considered to be unknown, right? Let's just look at Rashi real quick, and then we'll call it a day. Tumas Ziva, right? Just look at the bottom Rashi. Right, it says Le'olam Abalim. Uvaisa Pesach, right? And when we talk about makes a Pesach with Kashi Lechan, that we ask Holom Hanile Tuma Achrisi. There is no other Tuma. Iga Tumas Ziva. There is a Tuma Ziva. Shehi Shivas Yamim. Right? It's 7 days. Vein Sheikh them Zarkin Love. And normally a person is a Zav. You can't go ahead and do the Shchita or the Zrika for him. Ve'ashmina Reb Chia, and comes Reb Chia to teach the Tumas Hatum the Ziva. That no, it's excluding Tumas Hatum to Ziva, meaning Kagon Zav the Shvi Shalo. Right on his 7th day. The suffix who? It's actually a suffix. What's the suffix here? Shema Yira Hayom. Perhaps we'll go ahead and see his Ziva that day. V'yistor, and it will ruin, right? It will break down Komaj Shemana, right? Everything that he counted. So therefore, a suffix lo yira, or it's a suffix that he won't see it. V'harehu katumas sheretz the chasi lo orcha v'havile tumas atum apasla. And therefore, it will be like it will become tamei right? Like a sheretz. In other words, that it was really fit to go, but he didn't know about it because he was going to become a suffix. So therefore, this is a case of, since I don't know what's going to happen late in the afternoon, it's considered to be like tumas tatum, and therefore maybe we're only talking about the balim, but not talking about the kohen when it comes to the tzitz being maratza for tumas hatum. All right, we'll stop here. Shkoyach, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Bye-bye.